Hi everybody, my name is Jens Larsen. We use arpeggios all the time when we're improvising. We use them to connect to the chord changes that we're improvising over, but also to spell out interesting extensions or alterations in our solos. In this video, I'm going to go over 5 ways that you can explore and practice arpeggios, and that's going to help you have a better understanding of the arpeggio, knowing them all over the fretboard, and also in the context that you need to use them. Now, this is the way that I practice, and it's also what I use when I'm soloing. Of course, it's also how I teach. And I really see that it helps a lot with having a better overview of the harmony, knowing the chords better, and also knowing the fretboard a lot better. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, about improvising over chord changes and checking out some interesting scales or chord voicings, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then don't forget to turn on notifications. What I want to go over in this video is, of course, 5 ways that you can practice your arpeggios. But I want to talk about not only how you practice them, but also why you want to practice them like that, and also what you're going to get out of it. I think it's really important that we always think about how we practice and why we do it and what we're getting from it, because otherwise you might be wasting your time and you should actually be working on something else. The first, most basic way that you want to know your arpeggios is just in position. So if we take a D minor 7 as an example, if I'm improvising and there's a D minor 7 chord coming along, then I want to know that if I'm here on the neck, then these are the chord tones of that D minor 7. And you want to be able to have that overview and know that. And it doesn't really matter if you're playing a D minor 7 in C major, or if it's the 6th degree in F major or the 3rd degree in B flat major. These are the arpeggio notes and you want to know where they are. The thing you also want to take care with when you're practicing this is that you know the notes of the chord, and that you also know where they are on the neck, so that you know that it's like F, A, C, D, F, A, C, D, F, A. You might as well learn that when you're practicing them in positions. How you practice in positions is probably going to depend on what kind of scale system you use. If you want to check out the way that I work with this, then on my website I actually have written out arpeggio positions in the 7 positions that I work with, and you can download those as PDFs if you want to dig into how that works. Of course, if you're using another system, you just need to find the way of playing arpeggios that works with that scale system. The second approach that you want to work with when you're practicing your arpeggios is to practice them in the context where you're using them. So in this case, that means that whenever you're playing on a chord, it's not just the chord itself, it's also in the context of a scale, and you want to check out the diatonic arpeggios in that scale. So if we stay with the D minor here, really the way you want to work on that is that you want to determine what scale is happening at this point. So let's say that it's D minor and it's the 2nd degree in C major. Then it makes sense for you to know your C major scale, and then also know, like, so if we take this position, that you know all the arpeggios in that position. And that means that you can easily find the notes of the D minor 7 within that position and within that scale, and you already have it connected to the other notes that you need, because you're not going to be improvising only with the arpeggio notes. You're also going to be mixing it up with the notes of the scale. The third way that I practice my arpeggios, that I find is really useful for really knowing the fretboard and also really knowing the notes of the chord and connecting the different positions, is to play the arpeggio all across the fretboard. So really just starting on the lowest possible note in the chord and then moving up to the highest note in the chord. In this case, if we stick with the D minor 7, the lowest note that we have from the chord is an F, and the highest note is a D. So if I play a D minor 7 arpeggio like this, that could be something like this. When I'm practicing the arpeggio like this, I'm really not focusing on playing it fast. I'm really just trying to find a way to play through the arpeggio and think ahead and know where the notes are. And that's a really good exercise. Actually, any exercise where you're forced to play a certain melody moving around the neck is really going to help you have a lot better overview. So in that way, the arpeggio exercise like this is also a melodic tool for you to work with, and that's going to help you when you're improvising in that way. In this case, it's also important to notice that I'm not playing the same way going up and that I'm going down. You really want to work on finding a new way all the time and challenge yourself to go in other places and find solutions, because that's really what you're practicing here. You're not really practicing a set way of going from here to here, because that's just going to be a scale run that's not, or an arpeggio run that's not that useful. What you're training is to find the notes and being able to play them in time. Arpeggios are really melodies, and sometimes we forget that. We only think of them as being the notes of the chord that we're improvising over. But when we're improvising with them, then they are in fact melodies, and you can also consider them small licks, and you want to approach them like that, and you also want to have the freedom to play different melodies with the arpeggios. So when you're working on your arpeggios, it makes sense to check out different melodies that you have available. One of the ways you can do that is to check out some patterns in your arpeggios. You can do this in the position, so that could be something like this. Or a skipping pattern like this. And really you want to check out as many different patterns and melodies with each of the arpeggios, so that you just have more to draw from and that you can make more interesting melodies. A really important exercise when it comes to learning your arpeggios is of course also to practice making music with them. Now, one way you can practice this is to take a chord progression and then just practice improvising only using the arpeggios. So that could be something like this. One approach to practicing arpeggios that I didn't really include in the list, but I think that it works so well that it deserves a mention, is to practice your chord voicings as arpeggios. So especially if you want to have some lines that are sounding a little bit more modern and with some larger intervals, then using chord voicings as arpeggios is a great way to access those kind of melodies. So this is really coming out of the idea that we're thinking of the arpeggios not only as chord tones, but also as something that we need to make melodies with. The arpeggios that I make from chord voicings are usually coming out of the shell voicings, but also drop 2 voicings and sometimes drop 2 and 4 voicings. An example of a line using shell voicings could be something like this. And a similar example with a drop 2 voicing could be something like this. As you can tell, there are a lot of different ways to work with arpeggios, and they're a great resource and an important part of improvising, especially if you're playing jazz. If there's a way that you practice arpeggios, so that you work with them, that I didn't talk about and that you really want to recommend to the rest of us, then leave a comment on this video. There's always a lot of interesting discussions happening in the comments here, so check that out, and if you have something to share, then please leave a comment. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and this is the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. The videos that I publish here every week are on finding some solid methods and good strategies to explore all the great things about jazz guitar and improvising. If you like this video and you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. It's because of the support that I get from my patrons that I can keep on publishing videos every week. I'm very grateful for that. And if you join us over on Patreon, I can also give you something in return for your support. That's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.